Hello everybody, my name is RetroBoy03, and welcome to what is by far the largest LEGO rebuild mock I've ever shown on this channel. And one of the largest rebuild mocks I've ever created, period. Here we have the First Order Landing Craft Assault, which is a rebuild of the LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens First Order Transporter. And without any further ado, let's just get a look at this shuttle. Okay, so moving all the little resistance side builds away, we can just get a look at this, well, very nice, or, well, at least I, the creator, am calling it very nice, First Order Landing Craft Shuttle, which was inspired sort of by the original trilogy-era Lambda-class shuttles, but also a bit from Kylo Ren's command shuttle in the way that this one doesn't have the large central, I don't know what you call it. I mean, I guess the fin or whatever, like coming up from here, there isn't one. And I made that to sort of make this gel with Kylo Ren's command shuttle, and also because, well, I just ran out of pieces, let's be honest here, but... So anyway, just looking at this from the exterior, you can see that the center section does have a slightly boxy design, but that is something that was actually also on the Imperial landing craft, which was a set LEGO made actually back all the way back in 2007, over a decade ago at this point. But the front, I tried to get sort of a triagonal, sort of sloped-in design, as well as for the wings, which can fold, and well, speaking of that cockpit, let's just get inside there. You can see, first we have this little hatch that can open up, and I don't know if, and in there you can just sort of see the top of Captain Phasma's head, and you have to open that hatch up, and then you can just fold this entire section back to fully open up the cockpit. And inside you can see, I'll just turn this around and pick this up. You can see in there you have a First Order Stormtrooper piloting the ship, as well as Captain Phasma sitting behind him in a very nice armchair, because, well, obviously she's not going to be in the troop bay. And then up here at the front, you can kind of see how I got the angles together, and I know that that is just kind of a large area of unused space, but really there's nothing I could have fit up there. But yeah, as you can see, the design on the sides is very simple, but that was fully intentional to keep it very, again, just simplistic looking, kind of like the actual First Order vehicles. Just very smooth. The front of this craft I'm actually pretty proud of. The cockpit section I just folded up. You can see that, of course, like the First Order transporter, instead of having an actual glass piece to see through, it just has this black stickered windscreen because... well, there weren't any transparent pieces for me to put here, but anyway. And I also just tried to get a bit of greebling on here with some of the great pieces. And overall, I think it looks fine. But, up on top of the shuttle, you can see that here we have this dual turbo laser turret, which is controlled by a gunner on the inside in the troop bay, but we'll get a better look at that in a minute. And then back here, there's this kind of interesting section where you just sort of have this sliding panel. So this is sort of its normal position, but then you can just slide that back to perform some maintenance on the, I honestly don't know, I guess this would be sort of like the hyperdrive, possibly. I'm not entirely sure, but that was just kind of inspired by how in The Empire Strikes Back, Han and Chewie are kind of crawling in and out of panels on the Falcon, trying to repair it, so I just decided to add this as a little bonus feature, just something super simple, but I thought it was cool to add since I had the pieces to do it. On each wing, there are, again, pretty simple designs, and from the top they do look pretty thin, although obviously from the front you can see that there is definitely some Technic in there. And the wings, well, they can't fold much. This is as far up as they can go to get sort of to a straight out position, but for folding down they actually can go down beyond this, so picking it up you can see that, I mean, they can actually fold down all the way to here, which I'm not too sure about that. Honestly, I think they look best in pretty much the position they end up in if you just put the wings down as far as you can while you have the thing sitting on a table. But, anyway, you can see that under each wing you get a spring-loaded shooter, and we all know how those work, so I'm not going to demo it, but, on each wing there's also a little hidden compartment if you just remove this large gray piece. So on this side, there's just a compartment to store some extra blasters. I'm just closing that up. On the other side, here we have a compartment for a couple of little jump packs, and I'll just pull those out to show you how those can be used in conjunction with the minifigures in a minute once I get into the troop bay. There are still a few more features to look at on the exterior, but you can also see how on each wing there are these two sort of little turbo laser installments. Well, and those don't really match up with the positioning of the spring-loaded shooters that well, but I still thought they were just nice to include to sort of get a bit of an idea of where those shots might be coming from, even though obviously the placement isn't ideal. From the back, you can see that this model, this section up here would sort of be like an exhaust section, and I kind of like the shape that came out of that, although it is rather flimsy, but the back here, you can see that on the back we have 4 thrusters, as well as this blue road section. I'm not entirely sure what I was going for there, but I think it kind of looks nice, creates sort of an interesting design, even if it doesn't look exactly like an engine. I think it looks alright. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what I was going for there, but it's just kind of a unique design, and I like it. And obviously I like it since I made it, but anyway. But yeah, picking this thing up, you can see the landing gear below, which really don't have any way to retract, but those are pretty simple, just using some Technic pieces, but I think they look alright. The feet are on high friction pieces, although there are also pieces left over to make them low friction if you wanted, and up in the front there's this little thing. What is that? Well, if you pick this up in the front, you can just pull this off and fold it out, and this is a little reconnaissance drone for the First Order. I tried to make it pretty simple and smooth looking with just the little red photoreceptors to pick things up. I mean, it's very simple. I also included a couple of little blasters on the front, so we could... I mean, I don't know if those would actually be kill blasters. Maybe they would just be set to stun. I'm not entirely sure, but this is just sort of a little drone to send out, basically to collect just, you know, information from people suspected of being resistance spies. So that's just kind of a little extra feature I decided to add in. But, now to get to the interior, it's very simple. You just pull off these 2 sections on top, and then there is an interior. So, just sort of turning the model, you can see that in the front we just have a couple of flame troopers, but removing them, you can see that on the walls there are a couple of clips for any extra blasters you might have. And then here we have this gunner's position, and just this section is designed to be easy to come out, and I'll show you why in a minute. But for this gunner's position, it's pretty simple. You just have this little control panel, as well as this little if I just hinge it out, you have this red screen here. And the guy does have a neck bracket on his back, which is the only part of this model that isn't included in the set, but that's a completely optional thing that I just decided to show, and it doesn't have to be black, it can be in any color neck bracket, and since pretty much everyone has an extra neck bracket around them, I thought it would be fine to include, but again, since it's not something to the structure, it's just sort of an extra thing you can do if you have this piece, and even then you can still do it with the flame troopers using their neck piece, but anyway. So yeah, you can see that removing that, there is some nice space on the interior, but you can also see in the back, you just have a little boarding ramp, so you can just push that down, and you really couldn't, like, pretty much on all LEGO Star Wars sets, there isn't really enough room to have someone walk down the ramp, although, actually, it's not as ridiculous as on a lot of other sets. You could probably make it look somewhat realistic, but in all actuality, we all know what we all use boarding ramps for in actuality, just some slides, if it'll cooperate there. Just to have our little guys slide down. And if you can guess, the idea for that neck bracket for our First Order gunner, even though he's literally just a stormtrooper with a neck bracket, is so you can just attach him onto one of these jump packs. Specifically, if you do, you'll need to add a 1x2 or a 1x2 jumper onto it as well to create a bit more distance between the jumper and the packs. There's enough room because it is constructed differently than the clear neck brackets, but For the clear neck brackets, you don't need that jumper because there's enough room. So you can just stick these pieces on, and I just dropped one, and you can just have some first order jump troopers. You should probably equip them with blasters as well, but yeah, just moving these guys out of the way. Actually, I'll just pull the jetpack off of the gunner. One last feature I did for just a little bit of modularity is there's a reason you could easily remove this section, because if we open up the cockpit again, you can also easily pull out Phasma's chair, and you can just switch the two. So now you can have the gunner in the cockpit, which honestly might make a bit more sense now that I think of it. And then you can just set Phasma up in the cockpit, giving a very rallying speech to her troops, if I can just get her to stick in here in the correct place. Okay, yeah, you can just sort of see how that would work, and again, you can fit a nice number of troops in here, although obviously if you have them with the jump packs on, it gets a lot harder, so I'll just remove those to stick these guys back in. So, just give me a sec, this guy's refusing to stand. Okay, so I got him back in. I'll just place these two roof pieces on, which attach very simply, just using a couple of plates on the bottom. Oh, and also, I forgot to mention, you do sort of have to lean your figure back if you want this piece to close up, which I just realized could actually be a bit of a problem with Phasma. Maybe I should put her on the boarding ramp instead. That work better? Okay, so yeah, so if you want to have Phasma in the back and close it up, you do need to set Phasma on the boarding ramp instead of in the actual ship, but that's fine, since honestly, when you're flying the vehicle around fully closed up, you're probably not going to be using the ramp, and you'll probably only be using the ramp when you have the set open up and playing with it, so I think that's fine. Yeah, I'll just place these 3 jump packs back in the shuttle. So that is the First Order Landing Craft, or, well, I've also been calling it the First Order Landing Shuttle all this time, so names are interchangeable. I'm not really married to either, but, so yeah, that's the ship, and now let's move on to the couple of Resistance side builds. Since when I finished the shuttle, I ended up having a number of extra parts left over, I decided to use them to create a number of small side builds for the Resistance, since, I mean, come on, the First Order clearly already has the upper hand. I might as well give these guys at least a fighting chance. Just kidding, they don't have a fighting chance, they don't even have any actual shooters. But anyway, to start off with, for this little mini build of a Resistance base, we have these 2 little identical barricades, which are super simple, just a couple of pieces each, but they look fine, and obviously by the white ground. This would be some sort of snow planet or salt planet, judging by The Last Jedi, since, apparently that makes sense. Seriously, why was there a planet covered in ground kitchen salt? Like, if it was, huge salt rocks, that would be fine, but it was kitchen salt. I clearly don't understand, but anyway, moving those out of the way. Next up is this sort of little gunner's position, which I'm not entirely married to this either. I mean, it's not something I'm a huge fan of. Like, if you have to attach the guy on, you have to just have him hanging on this clip. He can't actually stand up there, and the gun can't really be angled at all, but I think this looks fine, and in the back, you just have a couple of clips for weapons. It looks fine. The last 2 side builds here are definitely my favorites. First off, we have this nice little build for sort of just a door. Obviously, it can't open, but it is nice. You just have a snowdrift, or also possibly a salt drift over here. And then there's just a little barrel there, and I use the stickered door piece here, as well as just a little light above. I'm a big fan of this build, although don't view it from the back, since that's not pretty. Yeah. And the very last build we have is the only actual play feature on any of the Resistance stuff. I mean, unless you count hanging this guy up here and being able to move this gun ever so slightly a feature. Just kidding, you can't even move it ever so slightly, it just snapped off. So unless you consider having this guy hang up here and not moving this gun a feature, Really, the only feature you have here is for this little comm dish that I created. This was actually the first side build I did, and it's very simple, only uses a couple of pieces, but I think it looks fine, and the play feature here is quite simple. You just take your shuttle, take your spring-loaded shooter or stud shooter, either or, and just bring that in here, and let's see if I can line up a shot. You just miss. And you just miss again. Okay, honestly, I don't think it would work with a stud shooter, but I'll try anyway. And then you miss a third time, and a fourth time. Okay, so let me just find those, and then I'll show you what happens. Okay, so what's actually supposed to happen is you fire your bolt. It comes in, hits the comm dish, knocks it over, and well, I mean, if you hit it with a bit more force, the head of the dish will just pop off. And it's a very simple play feature. Obviously, it doesn't work equally all the time, but personally, I honestly think it's pretty alright. I mean, obviously, it's not something I'm super proud of, and it's horribly simple, but it's still a thing you can do, and that's pretty alright. So now let me just gather all this up to give you my final verdict on my own set. So what I recommended, you take apart your first order transporter to build the first order landing craft. I mean, I can't really say. I mean, obviously it's just your opinion on whether or not you like this. Would I recommend you buy a first order transporter to build the first order landing craft? Well, if that's your only reason, then I would say no. This is pretty good, but it's not worth it. I mean, if you like the first order transporter, then yeah, go right ahead. But if you don't have it and you really only want it because of this shuttle, just don't. It's not worth it. If you were BFAB, would I recommend you choosing this mock as the winner in your contest? Yes. Please do. Please. Okay, so yeah, instructions on this model will be I don't know when. Obviously, this thing is pretty massive, so it might take me a while to create the instructions, and I'm already on sort of a backlog with a couple of other mocks that I need to create instructions for, so yeah. So that is the first order landing craft. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see all of you in my next video. Farewell.